let's jump right into
Yeah.
it. So one of my first lead questions that I just want to set the context for, a lot of SMBs are small to medium sized businesses. They are crunched, and a lot of bigger organizations as well too are facing this challenge around talent, retainment, talent attraction. So Jill, my first question to you is, what are some aspects around talent and talent development and attraction and retention that HR and finance can partner together to help growing SMBs?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great question. I think there's kind of four thoughts that I have on this front. So first, I think intentionality is so important, and I've learned that throughout my career. And what do I mean by that? So I think a lot of SMBs are continuing to grow and evolve the culture, right? So they need to be really
Right.
intentional about putting things in place that align and that correspond to the values that they're either they have created or they're looking to create. The second kind of goes along with that. You have to be thoughtful about, you know, what do you need for your organization and how do you continue to retain that amazing talent that you have in place. I think the other two things kind of go hand in hand. You have to be really adaptable and really flexible, and definitely we'll talk more about those pieces too, but I think those are the four key ingredients. And then how we work together from an HR finance perspective, I know you and I will talk more about.
Yeah, Jill, I love, like, and it kind of segues into my next portion, because I think culture is such an important part of every organization, right? In my 20 years experience in accounting, finance, FP&A, and financial leadership, culture has always been one of those most important ways, right? And a lot of times in the office of the CFO in the finance organization, right, we're like the number people. We don't like the warm and fuzzies. And I think culture is a
Yeah.
really, really great area for finance, for CFOs to kind of come into the organization and help build that. So let's dive into your first element that you talked about in helping SMBs around growth, around this talent element. How can HR and finance partner together to create an all-star culture inside of SMB organizations?
Yeah, well, so there's a lot of different pieces to kind of go after here. I think some of it has to do with some of the functionality of working together with your finance partner in terms of headcount planning, right? You first started talking about attraction, right? So you need to work hand in hand to understand what are the needs of the organization, what type of business are we looking to fill in the future, what kinds of roles will we need. Just because we know what we have today doesn't mean that that's what we're going to need tomorrow. So being really thoughtful about understanding kind of the direction of the business and where we're going to be growing and the talent and the skills that we have in place today and what that will look like in the future. I think there are also some things that, you know, we can align around goals. I think a lot about, you know, as you're looking at the challenges across the business, is this a people or a process issue? And sometimes it's both, right? So sometimes some of those needs and those opportunities to kind of grow start with people and being able to bring in people to fill those needs. And some of it's process. Maybe we need better technology. Maybe we're struggling to be efficient and effective at what we're doing, and we need help from a technological perspective. So I think a lot of it's working together from an HR and finance perspective to kind of understand what's going on in the business and how do we work together to improve some of the challenges, because we want to people to feel good about the roles that they play, understand the expectations and how they fit into the culture and how they help to drive the business. And then we also want to provide them with tools so that they feel like they have, you know, the best access to the things that help them to be more effective and efficient and help them to use their skills in the best ways.
Yeah, Jill, I love that aspect, how you broke it down from the people and the process and technology side. I always look at it, and when I look at the six key pillars of financial transformation, right, there's really the first three of the foundation pillars. That's going to be your people, that's going to be your processes, and that's going to be the partnerships that you have inside the organization. And no better place. And this is where I challenge all my CFOs, finance leaders that are going to go back and look at this and
Mhm.
say, we do have a direct role in driving the culture of organizations, right? We just don't typically, when you think of the office of the CFO, you think of financial professionals, right? You probably think of us as like the Excel people. We're really great at Excel and we're over in the back of the corner of the organization. We don't really come out, we don't really
Right.
communicate. I remember in leading high growth organizations that one of the first things I always did, and when I would come into work, when this was back going into work, right? This is a whole nother background, right?
Yeah.
But I would always come in and just interact with people, right? I would interact. I
Mhm.
would
Yeah.
go meet with people. I would go communicate. I would go sit in meetings that were outside of finance, right? So my challenge to all those CFOs going back and looking at these practical steps is go find a way to entrench yourself in the culture, right? Entrench yourself in
Mhm.
learning the sales culture, learning the HR culture, learning the operations culture, because I think that's another element to talk about. A lot of departments have different cultures inside of their department, right? So it's like the larger business culture, but it's also the larger culture inside the individual teams as well too. So I think for me, like that's really important for us to think about as we go and be culture like culture carriers inside the business.
Right.